Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ouroboros Out Loud, a tale that never ends, from a narrator that never dies. Follow our storyteller, the Last, as they journey through the Ouroboros itself to undo the end of the world, soothing it with stories from the now dead universe. Ouroboros Out Loud is produced and distributed by Chapman University's Ouroboros magazine, and frames student submissions at the heart of its story. Each episode shows the Last reading new submissions from the magazine's history to the Ouroboros, until they're able to begin the cycle of stories anew. If you would like your story to help save time itself, consider submitting to our fall and spring semester issues, or our Halloween zine. Your submission may just convince the Ouroboros to begin the cycle anew. Without further ado, this is episode 4, The Venom.
The throat drips with venom. Liquid pain oozes from the walls of the throat, which expand and contract with each breath of the serpent. As the venom comes into contact with flesh, it hisses as it digs away, eroding and carving, slowly and oh so painfully. I cannot move. The venom pours from small glands on the sides of the windpipe, mixing and pooling with mucus and bile sliding up from farther inside the snake. As I fit myself into the confined space, the liquid rises. It burns. It stings. It is pain. The pain sounds like screams. It sounds like death, disintegration, annihilation. Being cut from the fabric of reality. Every world contains many stories. Most never see the light of day. I realize now that they end up here, rotting away at the divine serpent, eating it from the inside. Every cycle has caused a buildup of the toxic gunge. Now there is too much, and it overflows. There is too much. As I push myself down the throat of the Ouroboros, it squeezes tighter and tighter. The snake hurts deeply. I try to reach out to soothe the pain, but the venom coats its throat completely. All I can do is bear the pain alongside it, hoping that the new cycle may help free it from this torture. I hope that is enough. It is hard to breathe. Around the sides of the burns from the venom, large sores grow on the inside of the throat. They block the way forward. They grow and ooze pus, adding more to the disgusting, vile mixture that congests my passageway forward. The Ouroboros cries out to me, begging me to help. The way must be cleared. The catacombs before me are an obstacle. It will not stop me. As my skin continues to burn, I want to scratch it until it comes off. However, I persevere. I push forward. Instead of screaming, I read. The umbral clock tower of Schottenstadt. It was not every day that the scenery demanded Samuel Mueller's attention, but on this day, Monday maybe, but it could have been Tuesday, it was practically screaming at him, begging to be perceived. Samuel listened, although really he should not have, and he became transfixed. Schottenstadt was, simply put, no longer right. Something was amiss between its cobbled streets and Gothic homes. Perhaps that wasn't exactly the way to put it, though. To Samuel, it was more as if the town had never been right in the first place. There were the houses, and the road, and a market stall or two, and the townsfolk who had begun to start their day. All those aspects were well and good, but something was still leaving Samuel with an intangible uneasiness. His gaze slowly rose upward, and lo, he saw it. The clock tower. This brought his thoughts to a roiling boil, and the first bubble that rose to the surface was a question. Had this always been there? Samuel lost his parents a few years back. His mother had leukemia, which was hard on him and his brothers. She passed in her sleep, and his father followed on his own accord. They did not have much to bequeath to him, but one item they did leave in his possession was a tarnished pocket watch. His father said that it was passed down to him from his great-great-grandfather, who had assisted in the town's founding. It wasn't worth much, though. Its hands ticked irregularly and without reason. It has to have always been here, Samuel muttered to himself, his eyes still transfixed on the form of the tower in the distance. For something of that size to appear overnight would be utter nonsense. Samuel took one last look at it, realizing it was bathing the entire town in a long shadow, before quickly putting his glasses on, grabbing his briefcase, and leaving for work. He attempted to shove the clock tower out of his conscious mind by calculating multiplication tables. 7 times 2 is 14, 7 times 3 is 21, 7 times 4 is 28, and so on. His typical route to work was taken. He would make a left from his home on Stellplatz, walking for about 5 minutes until he reached Dunkelgasse. From there, it was only a 10-minute walk to his office on the right-hand side of the road. There was nothing odd about Samuel's walk itself, but he could not help but notice the lack of sunlight on this particular day in spite of a dull, cloudless blue sky overhead. He reached his office and sat down at his desk. No matter how hard he tried, there was no work to be done that day. Samuel stared aimlessly at the materials on his desk, only breaking his catatonic fixation to steal peeks out of the window where the clock tower filled the left half. The strangeness did not go unnoticed by his colleagues, who, at times, would stare in his direction without saying a word. Hours would pass with no productivity from Samuel before his boss, a conventional man in his 40s who harbored no unique qualities to him outside of his faint 5 o'clock shadow, walked up to him, rousing Samuel from his state. "Mr. Mueller, I have to ask, what on earth could possibly be bothering you so?" he asked, his hands crossed and an eyebrow raised. Samuel could feel the dryness of his mouth as he opened it to answer, but nothing came out at first. He stared at his boss dead in his eyes before finally squeaking the answer out. The clock tower. I haven't seen it before. I just know I haven't." His boss furrowed his brow before cocking his head at Samuel. "We all know about the clock tower, Mueller. It's been at the center of Stadtenstadt for as long as the town has been founded." He paused to play with a bauble on Mueller's desk. "Look, I can tell something is the matter. You don't have to tell me. Just take the day off. Your well-being is important." He cracked a forced half-smile before setting down the bauble and walking away. With that, Samuel went home. On his walk, he noticed that the street was much narrower than he remembered it being. When he arrived back home, he immediately began to stare at the clock tower from his window again. He tried to drink in every detail: the smoothness of its walls, the intricate ornateness of its windows, and what he believed to be a door at the base of the tower. Perhaps going to the tower would do me some good, Samuel thought to himself, but he could not bring himself to stop staring at it. As his eyes slowly shifted onto the clock itself, he realized the hands were not ticking normally. They ticked irregularly, offbeat, and sometimes backward. Without looking, Samuel rummaged through his desk drawer and took out his great-great-grandfather's pocket watch. He compared the irregularities of both clocks ticking, and before he knew it, the revelation manifested itself wholly in his mind. Both the watch and the clock ticked in irregularity together. Stupefied at this, Samuel stumbled out of his home and onto the street, just as the sun began to set. Pocket watch in hand, he stood on the street, and the ground shifted underneath him. At first, the ground began taking him down his path to work, but the street lamps became twisted like briars, and the houses began to look at him with decrepit and desolate expressions. Only hazily did he realize that he had been taken to the base of the clock tower. It was here he could notice things he did not see previously. The wall of the tower was lined with stone statues, depicting what Samuel could only see as imp-like figures impaled on a spike. The expression and pose of each imp were different, but Samuel could distinctly feel they were all looking at him. At the base of the tower was a door, no less or more ordinary than one Samuel had seen anywhere else. The imps were not the only ones whose gazes were fixed on Samuel. The townspeople had come and gathered nearby, whispering amongst themselves as Samuel stood. He began to feel a tightness in the back of his throat, combined with a burning sensation in his chest. Beads of sweat raced down his forehead, competing for first place as they dripped all the way down his face. His cheeks tingled. His feet ached even though he had no memory of the journey here. His tendons felt rotten and ready to snap at the slightest touch, while his muscles tensed and tensed. Samuel averted his gaze away from the swarm of oculi, feeling his chest tighten and tighten with each face in the crowd that looked upon him. When he glanced back at the congregation, their eyes glowing like a bundle of grapes in the sun, he suddenly could bear it no longer. He ran through the crowd until his lungs felt as if they were being ripped apart by fire ants, before stopping to catch his breath. As air struggled to fill Samuel's lungs, he recognized his scenery. He was in front of his place of employment. Samuel looked outside to ensure that he had not been followed before entering. Immediately upon stepping inside, he encountered his boss, who looked extremely cross with him. "I told you, Mueller, the clock tower has always been there." He furrowed his brow and stepped towards Samuel. "I am suspending you indefinitely for your flagrant attitude. I will allow you to return when you have demonstrated to me you can let go of this ridiculous obsession." Samuel, flabbergasted, tried to squeak out a retort. Well, sir, I never told you I was thinking of the..." Samuel paused mid-sentence, and as if on cue, he turned and glared at the tower, which was visible out the window. His boss stepped forward one more time, almost squishing Samuel between himself and his door. "Some things have always been there, even if you have not seen them before." He then pushed Samuel out of the door, who fell onto his back knocking the wind out of him. When Samuel gained the strength to return to his feet, he glared down the road, which became increasingly more akin to a grotesque archway, with the street lamps splitting themselves into blackened tendrils that reached out towards Samuel's shrunken form. At the end of this tunnel, he saw it. That oh-so-ordinary door. The Hades that awaited at the end of his own catabasis. Before he could think it over, the ground itself crept underneath him, taking him downstream the Styx. Broken multiplication tables flooded his mind. 7 times 2 is 56. 7 times 3 is infinity. 7 times 4 is nothing at all. Both an eternity and no time at all passed by the point Samuel reached the base of the clock tower once more, with those sanguine, weeping imps staring down at him with hollow precision, though this time they were not still. Their heads rattled in place, creating a cacophony of dreadful notes that disturbed even the deepest corners of Samuel's psyche. Their faces twisted and contorted, and Samuel could feel his own features changing. The corners of his mouth tore and burned. His ears felt shriveled and cracked, and his eyes were popping out of his skull. The rattling imps beckoned him, and Samuel, after all that had happened, would not refuse their laconic call. He crept forward, this time of his own volition, and the inscription burned itself onto the door, or perhaps onto his very own retina. The gates of hell are open, night and day. Smooth the descent, and easy is the way. But to return and view the cheerful skies, in this task the mighty labor lies. The door creaked open, scraping the ground as it went along, and the sickly sweet euphony of the rattling imps stopped Samuel from thinking of anything other than this moment, this climax. The door opened at last, and Samuel could peer within. And to his surprise, nay, to his horror, there was no Kugelblitz, no Ouroboros, no Daemon, no Seraph. There was nothing malignant or sublime behind that door. There was only that of Middernot. The blackness that enshrouds all without any pause. He ripped the watch out of his shirt pocket, his fingers tingling and his palms sweating, to find that the hands of the watch had broken free of their constraints, spinning wildly, forming a spiral before his very eyes. And then, there was nothing. Samuel could sense no more, and perhaps he was no more. The last image that had appeared in his mind, like a fleeting dream that escapes the morning dove's call, was that of his own Schattenstadt from the bird's eye. The houses, the streets, they all seemed so bizarre, confusing, almost liquid, and the shadow the clock tower cast was vast, encompassing not only just Schattenstadt, but perhaps all of Germany and beyond. It was not clear to him. Nothing was really clear anymore at all. But one thing in particular was for certain. Samuel could see no more. He no longer had any eyes. All that Samuel could bear witness to was an even blacker darkness, stretched beyond his final days. It has become clear to me. This suffocation, this burning, this pungency, it must be cleared out. I slash. I claw. The Ouroboros screams in agony, louder than before, but the decay has begun to clear. I can feel the pain of the serpent, pain that comes before healing, a necessary evil that comes before there can be new growth. For the sake of my friend, I hope that what I am doing is helpful enough. For now, there is no way to know. I reach the back of the throat. More of the venom pools here. It digs deeper into the flesh. There is nothing else I can do. The venom here coagulates. It does not rest. This is different. It carries a deeper pain. Something older. Something angry. There is not enough room. I have to crawl through it. As I dig my way through, the gunk pulls at me, both at my body and at my memories. Something grabs onto my mind, forming, trying to remind me of something. It feels important, but its form does not solidify. Not yet. Piercing wails escape from my own throat as I finally pull myself from the sludge. Whatever it pulled from within me, it lingers in the pool. It shapes, forms itself. For now, I cannot tell what it is, but I can feel it growing in power. For now, I do my best to push my way out of the throat. The pain still lingers.
This episode of Ouroboros Out Loud was written by Tim Deutschman and produced by Amin Veach. The Umbral Clock Tower of Stadtstadt was written by Julian Romano. For more episodes, or to submit to the magazine, please visit ouroborosmagazine.wixsite.com/Chapman, or find us on YouTube at Ouroboros Out Loud. Thank you again for listening.